Want to ring the bell?
All right. Ding, ding.
What is up? Welcome back to Two Views Movies. This is our third episode in a row of the new year.
All right.
Feels good to be back. Yeah, no, was it? What two is possibly luck, three is a streak.
We are on a recording streak.
a 3-game win streak.
Yes.
So we are going to talk
Superheroes.
Yeah, lots of superheroes.
Superman 4 today.
Oh boy. What did you just compare to Superman 4? Wonder Woman.
1984 was Superman 4.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to disappoint, but we're not actually talking Superman 4.
That's a good thing. And I don't think anything on our list today is anywhere near Wonder Woman 84 territory. I hope, at least on the surface, from what I've seen.
There is nothing that I see in this list that I think will be as bad as 84.
I would agree with that. And we have quite the list to get through today. So where we wanted to go today, I think we touched on it maybe a little bit in previous episodes, but we're not going to actually do a full-on review today. This will be one of our first new episodes of the year where we just kind of take what's going on in the movie world and chit-chat about it a little bit. We have a quasi-review we're going to do.
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as much as you want to say
Partial?
we're going to chit-chat a little bit about 2 episodes of a show, I mean, it's kind of a review.
Okay.
And then we're going to circle back around and talk a little bit about that infamous, I guess, in the movie community or Marvel fandom world, that shareholder meeting that happened in December where Marvel dropped, I don't know, 15, 20 news bits about shows and movies coming out.
Yeah. So we're going to dive in and talk about our thoughts on all of these.
Yeah, as much as we can, right? Like they gave us some nuggets on some, and then others, it's just sort of like this ethereal idea, right? Like, oh, hey, we're going to do a show with Don Cheadle, and that's all we're giving you. That and the title. Have fun.
Right. So we're going to make it up and see how we feel.
Yeah. Okay, so then let's get into this because we have a lot to get through between talking a little bit about WandaVision and then diving into what does basically the rest of the MCU look like as announced by Disney back in December. So we're pretty much going to at least cover, if they've talked about it and you know, quote unquote officially announced it, we're going to run through it right here pretty quick. So I say let's start off with WandaVision. So it dropped on Friday and we got 2 episodes, and it's the first foray of Marvel into the MCU show world, right? Like everything's been limited to movies now. They're going on Disney Plus. They're starting to drop some shows, and WandaVision was the first one out of the gate. So I think my question for you before we talked about what happened in the first 2 episodes is, what were your thoughts on WandaVision being the first? And I guess just really that, because I have some thoughts, but I'd like to hear your thoughts on WandaVision leading this.
Well, WandaVision leading this is an interesting choice. I think maybe Bucky and Falcon, Winter Soldier and the Falcon should have been first, because I feel like
I don't think you got that title right on both of those attempts. That was
fine.
0 for 2.
Everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Okay.
What is the official title?
It is Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I mean, I feel like you just went all
just
Justin Tucker on us, man. Like, you're a comic book guy on this podcast. You're usually on your game, like top notch, and then you just, put 2 right off the uprights back to back right there.
Yeah, people are like, who's the Winter Soldier? Well, it's Bucky. People know, he's Bucky now. He's not the Winter Soldier anymore. Cap gave his shield to them to share, I guess. Actually, he gave it to Falcon. But
that's true.
It sounds like they're going to share it. But I thought that one would be a better bridge, because they said that one's going to be basically a 4-hour movie that they've chopped it up into episodes. And this WandaVision seems like it was very intentionally episodes based on how it's been constructed so far.
Yep.
So I think it'd be, and it's a little weird. So I think if you're trying to get audiences into the Disney Plus realm, I think a 4-hour movie chopped up might be digestible easier than what this is going to be.
Yep, I'm with you 100% on that. And I also think that if you're Marvel, you want to lead with the most accessible. I mean, you kind of hinted at this. The most accessible, something that's going to have some action. Like, I guess you want to be a little bit reliable. Like, I'm not saying you want to be stale or predictable, but reliable, I think, is what I would go for. And I think Falcon and Winter Soldier, from everything we've been reading and seeing a little bit from the trailer and all that, it feels like that would have been the better one to get people in the door in. Not that Marvel needs people in the door, but like, okay, we'll parallel this to Star Wars. I feel like they crushed it with Mandalorian, and I bet that was a little bit of a risk because they didn't have as many existing properties to kind of work with, but they nailed it. And this one, you know, I think you're running a little bit of a risk on, you know, two maybe lackluster characters leading this charge.
They definitely have not developed these two at all in the movies. WandaVision, that is. I feel like you have more to hold on to, more backstory with Bucky, more backstory with Falcon. We know what they're about. We know how they interact with each other. And we have just very, very little with WandaVision, which is why they got their show. I get it. But if you want to try to, again, bring audiences into a new medium, like you said, something reliable that you know there's a fandom behind, and that's pretty much what you'd expect from it.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting too is that obviously, you know, these characters have a little bit of a story between, you know, they're both of them introduced in Ultron, and their relationship that kind of gets together all through Infinity War. And I also think they both have some similarities in that they started out appearing to be like crazy ultra powerful, and then kind of nobody really followed up on that line. I think they tried to kind of resurrect that with Scarlet Witch in Endgame and her kind of going one-on-one versus Thanos. But if you go back and watch Ultron, man, Vision was supposed to be like the end-all be-all, and then he just kind of isn't after that.
Yeah, I mean, they really crapped on his character, and you can argue that she's growing and learning her power set, and so I'm okay with her gradual, you know, ramp up to where she can actually. I mean, she showed in Infinity War, even with the rings, that she could hold off Thanos at least for a little bit before he used the time.
Did you say the rings?
Oh my God, what am I doing today?
I don't know.
I need a warning that today is the playoff game for the Chiefs, and I'm a little flustered. And
yeah,
we're supposed to beat Cleveland, and those games worry me the most. You know, so I've been off all day, just messed up in the head. I don't know.
I mean, hey, if what you're telling me is that you've got Mahomes winning another Super Bowl ring on the mind, I mean, fine. Well, bygones be bygones here.
I mean, I don't know. So I apologize. I'm here going further. I'm a little flustered today, but by the time you hear this, hopefully Buffalo's coming to Kansas City to play the AFC Championship game. But right now, I don't have that comfort, you know, and so.
Hey, if 15 is playing, if Mahomes is quarterbacking, you could put Thanos with the entire gauntlet on the other side, and I'm betting on Mahomes 10 times out of 10.
As well you should. However, we should win that game, and somehow Thanos lost. You know, I don't know. I feel like I don't know. And I'm sorry. Backing up. Yes.
Your point was Wanda versus Thanos with all the stones.
With almost all the stones. And she still held him off before she destroyed the Mind Stone that Vision had. And so it shows that she was pretty powerful there. And then even in Endgame, where he doesn't have any stones, and he's throwing them around like that before it all gets bombarded. It shows how powerful she can be. And so I really like Elizabeth Olsen. I really like her as Scarlet Witch. I think she does a better Jean Grey impersonation than anybody we've gotten in any of the X-Men movies. But now they're showing the other side of her abilities to where she can basically change reality.
Okay. So that's a beautiful segue into WandaVision.
Yeah, and,
The
and
tra-
so far, if you've only seen the movies and don't know who Scarlet Witch is, basically you only think she has telekinesis. I mean, is
Mhm.
that basically all that
uh,
they've explored?
no. I mean, because in Ultron, she does a lot of messing with people's heads, right? She goes up behind
Okay,
Cap
telepathy
and
and
wiggles her.
telekinesis, basically Jean Grey.
Yeah, yeah. So she, she throws Thor into that hallucination. I think she does something. Yeah, she wiggles her magic fingers and messes with people's heads in Ultron. But they definitely got away from that later on and focused more on just her telekinesis.
Yeah, and so there's no chaos magic. There's no reality bending. So they haven't even gone down that path yet. And so that's where this, I feel, is what they're doing.
Hmm.
Because Vision's, spoiler, Vision's dead. If you haven't seen Endgame by now, that's your fault.
Yes, but I will say, especially given the retro nature of these first two episodes, they are not establishing very clearly when this is happening. So I know that my kids, for example, were like, wait, is this happening like in between some of the movies that we've seen, like maybe between Civil War and Infinity War, where they spent time together clearly? And I had to say I don't think so, but I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure.
Oh, I don't think that's the case at all. I think this is after Endgame, and this is all in. This is basically Wanda's grief trip, and she's creating things and creating reality as she. Again, my impression is that these are TV shows that she watched when she was a kid and has inserted herself into them into a life that she wishes she had.
I 100% agree with you. I was just trying to say that for those that maybe don't have that perspective, the timeline is up in the air. The show hasn't explicitly confirmed anything yet.
That's true. The show hasn't really told you us anything. So we've seen the first two episodes, but I don't believe there's any spoilers in them that weren't in the trailers.
Exactly. So here's my little, I guess, rant blurb, whatever, about WandaVision. My high level review for anybody that wants like a nugget about what I think about this. I really can't rate it because it's the first two episodes of a show, and I think we're getting 8 or 10. But generally speaking, 9. Okay, weird. That is a very
Isn't it? That's a weird number.
Yeah, that is weird. Okay. I guess my issue with this is that we are shown in the trailer that what we perceive right now, especially in the first two episodes with these retro sitcom feels, throwing throwbacks, is that it's a world that's not quite right. Eventually, this is all going to unravel, and they've given very, very, very few hints of that. But it is there between her. There's some things she experiences, but across two episodes of 30 to 35 minute runtimes each, it is maybe less than 1 minute of questioning the reality that they're in. So for me, it was a very hard watch to know from the trailer that they're going to set this up as being this world that's not quite right, and you really only drop a few hints per episode that that's happening. So you kind of feel like you've now watched two episodes and just really wasted your time. And I'm not saying that you can't develop that, and then in hindsight these won't look a little bit better once we get more plot. It's just a very tough watch when you know that it's all fake and they're not sprinkling in a little bit more threads for you to pull to kind of start thinking about them. It's just they just kind of say, okay, here it is, and maybe we'll punt to episode 3 before we give you much. But like, if I'm just watching a Bewitched remake or a Dick Van Dyke remake, like you said when we were talking on the side, and not giving me more of those threads, like, ooh, that's interesting. Well, I wonder what's off there or what's off here. Then it feels like kind of like a waste of time.
Well, and there are a lot of Easter eggs that they've dropped in both episodes of what may or may not come. We don't know if those are nods just to their universe or nods to, again, what we're going to see this season. But you're right. The first two episodes, and with them only being 30 minutes, I feel they've left a lot to be desired. Just from the standpoint they haven't gotten into it yet. And and the fact that they're 30 minutes with this type of thing, I feel like it needs to be something grander each episode if you're going to do it like this once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Mandalorian, there was something happening every episode, whether it was dumb or not. Some sort of mission, some sort of something. And I know they're breaking this up by TV show each. At least apparently, it's a different TV show in a different decade each episode. But they're not moving the story along fast enough for, I think, what audiences are expecting.
I 100% agree. I feel like had you could do what they did with dedicating 2 episodes or even continuing this format, but the ratio can't be like 99% retro throwback and 1% mystery. You know what I mean? Like there needs to be a better balance there, so you can be like, okay, I get this. It's funny. It's a throwback, but I'm also getting little nuggets here and there that are keeping me invested in like what is the larger question at play here. And they're just simply not doing that. It was essentially 2 standalone episodes that are supposed to be almost like, oh hi, isn't this funny how much like Bewitched we are, and that's it.
I feel like this was 2 first episodes.
Yes.
And so we have just enough of the introduction and just enough of something's not right to make you want to watch episode 2. But instead, we're already on 3, and we still haven't been given anything to really grasp onto.
Yes. And then you start playing the game, right? Because there's 2 games I play in my head. One is, okay, 9 episodes. We have 7 left. Okay. You just kind of sort of wasted 2 episodes. And then also like the trailers tell you where this is going. So then it's sort of like a countdown to, okay, let's, at some point this is going to happen where we're going to realize this is not the real world. And then things will start to progress. So I'm just kind of twiddling my thumbs until then. And then honestly, like the quirkiness of the retro shows just didn't really do anything for me. And I'm especially interested to see how it resonates with younger kids. Both of my kids said they were bored. I can at least remember watching Bewitched, on reruns or, Nick at Night or whatever. My kids have no idea. Like, what is this?
Well, maybe that introduces them to older TV or Nick at Night.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I mean, Nick at Night for my kids now is like Saved by the Bell and Fresh Prince and stuff. Not I Love Lucy and Dick Van Dyke.
Well, they should get into that. But again, I don't. And me, selfish as I am, I don't care what the kids think. I think this was meant to be to bring in other audiences, and I think people appreciate that. And I know my wife watched these shows growing up. She fell asleep to Nick at Night all the time, and so she kind of got a kick out of that. Like, this is Dick Van Dyke, the next episode, Bewitched, and she kind of liked how they went through, and I think it would be cool to see it through the generations. But I do think the first episode should have been, I think they should be an hour anyway. You could have done both of those in 1 hour, the next episode an hour. I just think that there's not enough time to get to where they need to get. That's my biggest criticism.
Okay. And I think that, I'm not going to give anything away spoiler-wise. People who got advanced access to this to review things got to see 3 episodes. We are not fancy enough to get that.
We're not that advanced.
Nope. But from what I have heard from several different sources is that the first 2 episodes leave you kind of just like we've talked about, floundering a little bit. And then the 3rd episode starts to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit to where you feel better about the show after the 3rd episode. So I have high hopes for the 3rd episode. However, if this is true, I think Marvel may have made a mistake in not just releasing all 3 together, because I don't feel like the first 2 give you enough to sink your teeth into. And with this being the first Marvel show, the next phase in the MCU as far as shows go, like I think you really wanted to get people buzzing about it and let them sink their teeth into it. So if that 3rd episode is what would have given you that, I would have much rather released all 3, and then you're anticipating the next episode that much more, as opposed to right now. Like if I hadn't read anything about the show and know that the 3rd episode is supposedly the one that does this, I would be like, okay, I mean, yeah, I'll watch WandaVision next week, but I'm really not feeling it right now.
Yeah, I love the idea of the episodic. I think that's a great marketing tool. HBO does it. It gets people talking week to week. That's how I feel like movie or shows should be released, because that's how you get the buzz. Netflix, when they do the full dump and you binge watch, people watch them at very different times and they don't talk about them so much. And I feel like it loses a lot of cultural momentum. But they also have to hook you.
Yes.
If people are all talking about how bad it is or how nothing's happened, that's not going to hook. But I think they do have the advantage of it is the MCU. It's the only MCU that we have. And they have that built-in audience, similar to Star Wars, that people are going to watch it no matter what.
Yep.
So they do have that going for them. But I do think what they're trying to do here is introduce a whole lot of things that are about to be the future of Phase 4. And I think it might be a lot for what this show's doing.
Okay.
Without trying to get too much spoilers.
That's my hope. I think this show, if you're going to be the first one out of the gate, you got to kind of set the bar high. You got to establish where you're going. I think with the slate of things that we're about to talk about that's coming in the future, I think there's a lot of directions they're going, but I feel like the first one has to really establish the tone, set the bar. And again, it's 2 episodes out of 9, so I'm not going to say that this is by any means a lost cause. I think this show could end up being very, very, very good. Do I think that the first 2 episodes will be rewatchable even as this show progresses? I don't know. I find it hard to think that I'm going to go back and watch those first 2 episodes unless I'm doing like a quick Easter egg hunt for things I may have missed. But overall, I don't think those 2 have a lot of rewatchability. So my hope is that we throw it into a different gear, maybe starting in the next episode, and then we go from there.
Nope, that's a good point. I don't think either one of those are rewatchable, or where you'd start. You're trying to go through the season again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't have really anything else to say. I think that encapsulates my kind of WandaVision stuff, and I think that as we keep going through the season and we have some more episodes like this where we have some trailer talk and some other stuff, that we'll keep updating on WandaVision.
Yeah, but I think if anybody can do it, it's old Miss Elizabeth. So
I agree with you on her. I like her. I actually like Paul Bettany as Vision. I don't think either of them were bad actors by any means. So it's all in good hands. I trust that Marvel will figure this out. Marvel has rarely made a mistake, and I don't consider this a mistake. It's just an interesting first dip of the toe into the pool of shows for Marvel.
So before we get off WandaVision, this is a way of them potentially introducing the X-Men. I mean, basically, throughout this entire slate of 50 some odd things that they've announced, somewhere there's going to be X-Men, at least hints at mutants. And Wanda has a very lengthy relationship with mutants, and she has the power to make something weird happen. I don't know what that's going to be. I hope they don't do it this early. I know they're frantically trying, at least they say they're trying to find out ways, so I don't think it's in this, but they're definitely opening the door for the ability for them to pop up somewhere.
Sure. And I think that's what a lot of people are thinking, and it very well could be. I know that kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff from the articles that you and I have read says that Marvel still hasn't really established what they're going to do with X-Men. It sounds like they're still very much in the planning phase. So I don't know that anything will be ready for WandaVision. Now, they could be trying to just throw us off, the scent or whatever. But that's what all the news has said.
So the next one up is what we just talked about: Falcon and Winter Soldier, not Bucky and Falcon.
No.
Which, again, like I said, is a 4-hour movie that they're chopping up into episodes. I think it's a little buddy cop, and I think it'll be exactly that.
Yeah, and we do have a trailer for this one, so they released that. You guys can all go check that out, and the release date, I believe, is March 19th, so we don't have to wait too long to get this.
That's right as WandaVision stops.
Mm-hmm.
Then this one will pick up.
Yep, and the trailer doesn't really give away a lot of plot points, I don't think. It feels very much like a traditional Marvel movie, and we're just pairing up 2 guys, like you said, buddy cop. But all that being said, it looks good.
Yeah, I'll withhold judgment until I see it. It looks a little ho-hum for me so far. Okay. 2 guys that don't necessarily have substantial power sets. And how much can you do with flying around and shooting guns? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, could they make a really good movie or show out of it? Maybe. It's all a matter of them 2 playing off each other, I think, is going to make or break this.
Yes, I can see that. And I agree. I think the other thing that's going to really make or break this is the $64,000 question. Which one is Captain America? Who's going to become Captain America? We all know that Cap left Sam the Shield, but everybody was all kind of I don't want to say like freaking out or anything, but I think there was a lot of question marks come up when the name of the show was Falcon and Winter Soldier, because everybody's like, well, wait a second. Cap got, gave Sam the shield, so why is he still called Falcon? And I think that's going to be a plot line in this show. So I think that is a huge deal for a lot of MCU fans and watchers is what in the world is happening with the Captain America mantle.
I'd really like to see how bold Disney gets with this, because the storyline in the comics when Cap gave up the shield, he gave it to Bucky first, and then Bucky has a, let's say, interesting past as he was an assassin. And so was he the best choice to be Captain America? Probably not. And then it went to, later on, it went to Falcon, and they really dove into the comics of, say, America saying, that's not my Captain America.
Interesting.
It's a black man holding the shield. He didn't earn it. Who is he? Cap just gave it to him. It was a really, sort of very heavy issues of what Sam was dealing with, trying to live up to the mantle of Captain. You have the mantle anyway, and then you have the racial factor that I don't know if Disney will dive into that or not.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's a very timely topic if they did want to wade into that, but
is it too divisive for Disney to tackle at this moment?
I don't know, man. They seem to kind of want to go headfirst into the female empowerment back when Captain Marvel and Endgame were out there. I mean, I will say it's not like it was terribly overt, but you definitely saw some stances taken in there. So it will be very interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, they've been very on the forefront. We're going to get our quote unquote first Asian superhero soon, with Shang-Chi that we'll talk about in a little bit. So, there's some stuff going on there that hints that maybe they would be willing to take that on.
Well, I mean, I get that they're trying to have a more diverse universe, but that's head first into a topic.
That's true.
That I don't know that they have done before. I mean, they've kind of hinted around things, but I don't think they've ever dove into a social issue like that on screen that I can remember. And so I'd like to know, I'm curious, because I didn't rewatch the trailer before this episode. I've seen it a couple times, but I don't remember Cap's shield being in play. Do you?
No, I don't remember seeing that.
Okay.
But that's where I'm saying that I feel like if they don't address that in this show, that will be very weird.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. They have to address it in the show at some point. But we don't have really a plot. We just know people are trying to kill them for some reason.
Yeah. We don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're being sent on missions. I don't know if the trouble is coming to them. I don't know if S.H.I.E.L.D.'s involved. I mean, yes, it is a very generic trailer. We don't know who they're fighting against, why they're fighting, why it's just those two that have teamed up. We don't know any of that.
Which is perfect. Don't ruin it by putting other trailers out.
Agreed. Agreed.
But it has me interested, has me curious. I think it really, again, depends on the relationship between Bucky and Falcon of them two bantering and back and forth for this to be a good show. And I think they have the ability to do it. I just hope that whoever wrote and direct and whatnot keeps that on the forefront.
Agreed. And now's probably the good time to mention the news that came out this week that might not really be news, which is that Deadline was reporting that Chris Evans is talking about coming back as Cap, not in a solo movie, but willing to appear in other roles as Captain America. But then Chris Evans tweeted about it and said, well, this is news to me, basically. So I don't know if he's back. I don't think this in any way, shape, or form would impact Falcon and Winter Soldier because that's already done. But interesting nonetheless that that's being floated out there.
Yeah, and I think him signing a contract it wouldn't surprise me if he popped up, whether it be flashback or whether it be in the multiverse or anything that any of these other shows are going to do. I mean, I would say, oh, well, of course Chris Evans is going to do something. I don't think he's going to headline a new Captain America movie, but him popping up somewhere, I think, is even in a video in Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, and I will say the report specifically said he wouldn't lead a Captain America film, but that he would be open to a Iron Man in Civil War type role, which I was like, okay, well,
which is
that's a
basically Iron Man's movie.
yeah, exactly. I was like, that was basically a Cap/Iron Man movie. So I get that you don't want to do another Cap movie, but if you're going to say that you do another Civil War, yeah, I mean, you're still going to be getting a lot of screen time and be the title role there, bud. But again, who knows if this is real or not based off of Evan's response to that? But just interesting news nonetheless, given that we're talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and that's, to me, that's expected. So that's not even really news. I expect a cameo here or there.
Yep. All right. So then the next one up coming out in May, at least from a show standpoint, is Loki.
Yes, so that's right as Falcon Winter Soldier they pop in the Loki, and that's him gallivanting across time with the Tesseract.
Yes,
and we get a lot of interesting side characters in that trailer, and it looks weird.
I love the trailer. I thought out of everything that we saw back on announcement day, I think the big three trailers that they had were WandaVision, Falcon and Winter Soldier, and Loki. And to me, Loki was by far the most interesting.
It is definitely interesting. I think it has the potential. Well, now that I've seen the first 2 episodes of WandaVision, it has the potential to be the worst of the 3, depending on how they do it. But I know you're a big Loki fan.
Yes.
And I have no problems with Loki. I just think, how messy is that going to be? It looks kind of like Time Cop to me.
Yeah, there was something called like the TVA that Owen Wilson is leading, and he mentions that time doesn't behave the same here. Yes, I will say it seems like Loki is creating some mischief across multiple timelines, and somebody's trying to keep track of that or resist him. I don't know. We're not given a whole lot, but I liked the vibe of the trailer. I thought it was very, very cool.
Yeah, I just wonder how much, and I would say how much bearing would it have on the rest of the MCU, but they're very good about having all these matter. So I guess it really could.
I guess it could. I feel like the premise of the movie is going to be, or show, I should say, is more about like being free of the timeline. So letting Loki go get into all these hijinks and problems and everything without having ripple effects on at least the main timeline. Now, maybe as we venture more into like the multiverse and stuff with other movies coming up, we see where Loki has wreaked a little bit of havoc. But I like that he's actually going to be kind of divorced from the main timeline and able to impact things in new ways that maybe we don't expect. Like, it would be really cool if they showed maybe how he impacts, I guess they're going with, we'll talk about this in a minute, but they have a what if show. I guess I was kind of going down that path. So maybe they'll stay away from that a little bit, I guess.
Well, and I just have a problem with anytime you introduce something like time travel is you have to be really smart about it. Because, I mean, obviously the internet is known for pointing out flaws and hey, this screwed up. So if you're having Loki go through time and also adhering to the rules set up in Endgame, just making sure that you're consistent throughout. Well, why couldn't this have happened if that happened? And a lot of them don't make sense on the internet, but a lot of them do. And you're like, yeah, you know what? And that just kind of ruined all that for me. I just hope that there was a lot of thought put into him jumping through time and changing things or doing things, or have always been there. I don't know how they're doing it, but that has the potential to blow up a lot of things.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, Marvel has earned the benefit of the doubt there. I think they've done a really good job of, as much as they can, crossing their eyes. Wow.
Right, crossing their eyes,
Yeah, crossing their T's.
Every time they cross their eyes.
Yeah, it's like one of those 3D posters. You got to cross your eyes and stare at it.
No,
and
eventually
look
past
you
the
see
poster.
Right, through the poster. Yeah, they get the benefit of the doubt. I think for the most part, they've done a really good job of ensuring that when they get wild and crazy with stuff, that it is coherent enough to where, there might be some little snags here and there, but nothing that you can't, just look past.
So Loki's in May, but guess what's also in May again?
Yeah, if this happens,
we have Black Widow again. So I mean, nothing in these shows are going to affect anything that happened in Black Widow, and nothing in Black Widow is going to go into any of these shows, or they wouldn't have done this like that. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, I would think that if they had some interplay there, that Marvel would have been a little bit more cognizant about when they release things. So yes, I agree with you. And given that this is Black Widow solo movie, we know it has to take place in the past, so that probably isolates it a little bit from some of the other stuff that's going on.
So basically, we're not going to see Florence in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
That would be true.
I feel like that's the only place she would have popped up so far.
Yeah.
And
when you say Florence, you mean Florence Pugh, who's playing Black Widow's sister, correct?
Yes, who will be, okay. I don't know if it's her literal sister or just training sister, how they're going to do that in the movie, but she is essentially going to take the mantle, as far as the rumors that I've heard, of a Black Widow type character throughout the rest of the MCU. But I felt like a good time for her to reemerge would be Falcon and Winter Soldier, right? Those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing that we won't see her.
Probably not. And I don't know that there's a whole lot to say about Black Widow since we've all seen trailers for at least 12 months now.
Will that be the closest that we get to like a standalone aside movie? Do you think it has any bearing other than introducing Florence?
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because, Captain Marvel kind of went back in time and reintroduced some things that would come back later, I think. So perhaps this could do the same where, there is something there that shows back up in some of the newer phase movies that is just a nugget that was planted that we hadn't been exposed to before. So I agree with you. Yes, I think it's going to be primarily standalone, but it's got to lay I don't know. They're just too good at this. They drop some nuggets that then show up later that I expect there to be something beyond Florence Pugh that has some kind of effect.
So we're still excited to see this. At least I am. And I guess I never really got your take on how excited are you for Black Widow?
I'm fine with it. Like I'm not overly, anticipating it, but I'm certainly not like, I don't really want to see this. I mean, it's just like, okay, another notch in the belt for the Marvel movie. Let's go see what they do. It's kind of like how I felt. No, that's not true. I was going to say about Far From Home, but I was probably a little bit more excited to see Far From Home. So I'm kind of just, around the 3-star scale in terms of my excitement. Like, all right, let's go.
I think this is my least anticipated Marvel movie.
Of what's coming up?
Of ever to date.
Oh.
Of going into it going, I can't wait for Spider-Man. I can't wait for Thor. I can't wait for Thor 2. Not to say it will be the worst of them. It was just the least amount because I don't know the impact of any of it. Now, I like all the characters that they have. I just... going back in time and saying, oh, this was something that Black Widow did, before Endgame. I don't know. It seems like, at least I'm just saying my expectations were more like, okay, it's a Black Widow movie. Good. I'm glad she got one, but hype is not there for me.
I can see that. I don't think that's a bad take. I think that's probably where most everybody sits, unless for some reason, like Black Widow is just the character you've gravitated towards that you are, excited about.
I'm glad you got one. I'm excited to see it, but it's not.
Yep,
it's definitely not Endgame or Spider-Man level.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Okay, so next, this one I think is high on your list.
Yeah, because I know nothing about the character, and all I know is that it's Marvel and superheroes and kung fu. So yeah, why not? I mean, that's right up my alley. So was it Shang-Chi? I forget the whole rest of the title. Honestly, it's like Legend of the Ten Fists, I think.
Yeah. And
No. Legend of the Ten Rings. Damn it. So close.
10 rings. See, there's the rings. I knew there were rings somewhere in this episode.
Yes, there's rings here. So I know nothing about this guy, nothing about the backstory, absolutely nothing about it. But like I mentioned, I don't need it. You had me at Marvel and Kung Fu. The only thing I think I could maybe piece together would be that perhaps the Mandalorian makes a return, or I guess it didn't actually end up being the Mandalorian in Iron Man 3.
The Mandalorian?
The Mandarin.
We got Boba Fett coming out.
That would be
some kung fu.
Yeah, I would be all for that. The Mandarin. I mean, okay, that one's so close. That was just a slip, but yeah, the Mandarin is what I meant. So it didn't end up being the real Mandarin in Iron Man 3. So maybe there's going to be room for the real Mandarin in Shang-Chi. I don't even know if that's a thing.
Yeah, I hope so, because they really crapped on that character in Iron Man 3, and he's such a big deal to at least Iron Man that to have him as just an aside of not even a real character essentially is how that went down.
Hmm.
But I think they could introduce him here, and I think that'd be good.
Yeah. So do you have any nuggets on Shang-Chi, like from the comics? Like what can we expect here?
I think we expect kung fu.
Yes.
Yes, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to see that he can rival just about any fighter that we're gonna come across in the MCU. And it's he's not as prevalent in the comics, at least not in today's age as he used to be, and they're starting to bring him back. Um, but he's got some pretty cool storylines that I don't know what they're going to explore here, but I hope there's one in particular that they hope they at least start to do, and I won't get into all that. But well, once I see a trailer, I'll know, kind of at least think what route they might be going or what story they're telling, because there's a lot of good ones that they could dive into there.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
basically, I said a lot of nothing.
My big thing is that I just hope and expect that this will be the best choreographed Marvel movie. Like,
I mean, you have to,
go.
right?
I mean, please, just like, I'm not saying Marvel fights are bad. They're really not. They have some decent choreography, but I mean, I do think they do some things that will look worse in a kung fu movie, which is like, jump cuts, shaky cam, anything like that. That maybe they've. I don't feel like they've overly abused in the Marvel universe, but there's just a different way you have to film kung fu choreography, and if they don't get that, it runs the risk of just, I don't know,
Yeah.
disappointing me real bad.
I mean, that's what you lean on with this movie, right? Nobody knows this character. I mean, I'd be surprised if 1% of the population even has ever heard of this character.
Mhm.
And I think you need to lean on the fight scenes to, in that way, to separate itself from just another Marvel character. So I'm right there with you. I think they have to nail the choreography to get cheeks in the seats.
Yep. And it's not going to take. I mean, we see what happens with movies like John Wick and way back in the day, The Matrix. Like, if you can get that fighting style down to where it's cool and filmed well, and maybe even presenting something new, in the way that it's filmed, yeah, you're going to get a lot of word of mouth just from how awesome the fight scenes are. So you could even have a mediocre plot and not do so hot there. But if you crush the fight scenes, that's what people will start talking about.
Yeah. When you have a master of kung fu, that's what you got to do. That's where the money
Yep.
should be spent.
I agree. So after that, so I guess it's maybe after or around the same time, we're going to jump back into TV shows. So there's a What If? It's an animated series from Marvel coming out summer 2021. It's exactly what it sounds like, right? Like, what if this happened instead of the way that we saw it? I think the trailer showed us instead of Yondu picking up young Peter Quill, he picks up a young T'Challa.
Yes.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. And what if Peggy Carter got the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers?
Yep.
Lots of things like that. This comic series was always one of the most fun because they're usually standalone, books, but just let people get just uber creative of, what if Professor X became the Juggernaut instead of, his brother, things like that. There's you just get weird with it and say, hey, what would happen then? And so I think it's a really good idea to have this animated, but I love the fact that they have all of the actual voices from the movie characters participating in this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm excited for that. I think there'll be they're standalone single episodes that don't attach to one another is how I feel like it'll be. But it'll be just cool. Hey, whatever our brains can think of, let's throw that out there.
Yep. And I think animated form is perfect for that.
Oh, absolutely. Because you can basically do whatever you want.
Yep.
On a cheap budget too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I shouldn't say less production time. I don't know how long it takes to put together an animated show, but I guess I feel like it gives you a little bit more freedom than trying to film something.
For sure.
Okay. So next up, back to movies, we have The Eternals in November 2021.
So this one, it has me the most concerned. I don't know how well Eternals are. I like the cast, I really do, but
It's a monster cast.
But I feel like it's not going to feel Marvel.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to feel like a total aside. And yes, I had that kind of thought with Guardians, and they just crushed that. But this is going to be there's going to bring a lot of questions, and I just don't feel like it's going to be connected. And that's my biggest worry with this.
Okay. I mean, the cast is kind of insane, right?
Yeah.
It's just quickly Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden from Game of Thrones, Gemma Chan from Crazy Rich Asians, Salma Hayek, Kumail Nanjiani, Kit Harington. So we definitely got a couple of Game of Thrones alum in there. Brian Tyree Henry. There is a lot of people in this.
And to not and to go from Shang-Chi man, I can't talk today. To Eternals and not have like a Spider-Man in the middle or a Thor in the middle or a Doctor Strange in the middle. I think it's going to be a hard back-to-back, and I feel like Eternals is going to take the brunt of the unknowingness as far as box office. I'm not saying the quality of movies are going to be bad. I just think in box office and reception.
Sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. Like, we all know we're in the next phase. I shouldn't say we all, but like, those of us who follow Marvel know we're in the next phase. But like, I'm going to be very interested to see when the main thread of the next phase starts to appear. Is it going to start to appear somehow in Black Widow, somehow in Shang-Chi? Are we waiting until the Eternals? Are we waiting until we get around to one of our main properties, right? Because technically, Spider-Man Far From Home, I believe, wasn't that technically the first movie of the next phase?
I think it was.
At the end of
it was wrapping up the last phase.
Okay. So it'll be very interesting to me to see how readily apparent that the big bad guy of the next phase, or like the main progression of the next phase, starts to appear, and which movie it appears in. Because you're right, Shang-Chi and the Eternals might not be the tentpole movies that Spider-Man or Thor or Doctor Strange are, but those are later in the cycle. So I don't quite know what their approach is going to be.
Yeah, and you have Spider-Man right after it too, and so like a month later, I think.
So Eternals is November 5th, and right now Spider-Man 3 is looking like December 17th.
And I don't know how much Spider-Man 3 is even going to tie into this, but from what we're hearing, as far as the multiverse of what they're doing with Spider-Man 3, it's confusing that it's before Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
And so timing-wise, and that's where I come back to WandaVision, is all of this I feel like has to be introduced in this show. Don't you think?
I don't know. I'm not sure. That's putting a lot of a load on WandaVision.
It is, but where else are we going to see it?
I mean, that depends.
I hate it to be introduced into the Eternals.
But we're saying it as in like what? The next big thing of the next phase?
Well, I'm saying even the multiverse concept.
Well, I mean, Doctor Strange has already kind of hinted at the different, universes that he can drop into with all his powers, and then we kind of went with
those are timelines.
Yeah, but I don't think that the multiverse is too much of a stretch from that. I think people can understand what that is conceptually, especially if you assume that they are familiar with Into the Spider-Verse now.
Well, I think it's going to be a major issue because you don't just have the Spider-Man Tom Holland as we know him. We're going to be seeing Tobey and Andrew Garfield, and that's not a timeline thing. That's just confusing.
Sure, I think they're going to rely a little bit on the love for Spider-Verse. That even though that's not technically part of the MCU, that familiarized a lot of people with the concept of a multiverse.
So you think that's when our first introduction to that is going to be in Spider-Man 3?
I really don't know. I don't know. I don't have a good thought there. I'm not familiar enough with the comics to know what would make the good entry point there. So it could be. That could be the first one that we see is Spider-Man 3. I don't know.
I hope they don't do it in Eternals. I think that would just make that even more messy of a concept of all of these people that we don't know yet. So you have how many origin stories that we have to walk through to see who are these people and truly get to know all of these people that are on camera and introduce a concept of there's different versions of them in other universes.
Right.
I think
I would argue that same... I would argue that the same thing probably holds true for Shang-Chi. Like, while I don't think it's as confusing as the Eternals based off of what I've heard. I don't think you want to make a brand new character's first introduction be like really messed up by a plot that would seemingly be unrelated.
Right.
And you know, in regards to Spider-Man 3, I think we've all heard, or at least we read, that Doctor Strange is supposed to be in that. So it's going to be kind of one of those movies where, okay, it's Spider-Man 3, but it's also Doctor Strange 1.5.
I forgot he was in that. You're right. You're right.
So I think that's kind of what's, and then Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, when it comes out, you know, 4 months later in March of 2022, will probably build on that concept that was presented in Spider-Man 3.
Okay. Yeah, but I just think that it's a lot for a Spider-Man movie to make that jump. But add Doctor Strange,
come on,
and see what we're doing.
We know what's happening. We've talked about this on the side. Sony almost threatened to not even let Marvel participate in Spider-Man 3 until Tom Holland threw down the gauntlet and said, no, it has to happen. And then Sony, because they're trying to throw their weight around, sees that they had huge success with Spider-Verse, the animated movie, and they know nothing about how to be successful. So their thought is, well, let's just do that again.
Right. Let's do that live action.
Yeah.
And then, there are some people who liked Tobey Maguire. I see it on the internet. That one guy who keeps posting on every post that he likes Tobey Maguire better than any other Spider-Man. Which I guarantee that guy is a huge Snyder Cut fan too. Guarantee. Huge Venn diagram overlap. Bring that up, huh?
Yeah. Huge Venn diagram overlap between people who say the Raimi Spider-Man were like the end-all be-all of comic book movies and the same people that want to see Snyder's Snyder Cut of the Justice League. I guarantee it. It's like 90+% overlap.
Well, I want to see the Snyder Cut.
Yeah,
it's more.
Yeah.
But anyway,
we can stay on Marvel.
Okay, so we got through that's Spider-Man 3, and they're bringing everybody back. Villains and heroes alike. I hope they're just cameos, and they're not part of the main thread. Like he swings through and sees Toby, dancing on the street in black hair, and then moves on. Like that's the only thing that we see of Toby.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that'll make it worth it for me to have less screen time. But I'm excited for
Agreed.
Spider-Man. I'll see every Spider-Man. Then we go into Thor: Love and Thunder, which gives Jane Foster the hammer. They're going through that storyline, kind of, in this. I don't know if how close to the comics they're going to stay, but basically Jane picked up the hammer and she is worthy. Which hammer and when it is, I don't know. Where the hammer comes back from, because it's destroyed. I don't know how they're going to handle that.
Okay.
So time travel.
Yeah, because Cap was supposed to return Mjolnir to the right spot, right? Didn't he have that with him when he went back with the stone? Okay, thought so.
And then it got destroyed in Ragnarok.
Well, Ragnarok was before Endgame.
No, they were back in time in Endgame. When they fought Thanos, they were back in time. He went and stole the hammer, and then he returned the hammer, and then everything progresses as normal.
Okay,
it would have gotten destroyed.
There you go. Okay, I'm with you now. You're right.
There's no hammer for her to pick up and become worthy, so I don't know what they're going to do there.
Okay.
So that's a question.
Good point.
Yeah, my other question with this is Thor is starting on a journey with the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I think would be a really cool next Guardians movie with Thor along. But obviously, he's going to be a part of this. So Guardians are going to be a small part of this?
Yes, Guardians are, at least Chris Pratt is for sure in this movie. I think he actually, I don't know if I saw it on his Instagram or a news feed or whatever, but I think he was just recently filming his scenes for Thor: Love and Thunder.
I really think that was a wasted end to Endgame, a wasted opportunity. You could have Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth, in a Guardians type movie, buddy cop, if you will, and then they're like, well, we want to do Love and Thunder, so we have to bring him back fast.
I still think that's going to happen, though. I think you're going to get the Guardians in Thor: Love and Thunder, and I think you're going to get Thor in Guardians 3. I think they're going to be paired up for at least the next two movies.
I think that the majority of this is going to be Natalie Portman.
Oh, yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that won't be the main thread that they go down. I'm just saying that there will be overlap.
Yeah, I hope they don't lose that buddy cop movie with those two.
No, that needs to happen. It worked too well for the limited amount of time that it was on screen at the end of Endgame for it not to. Well, I mean, they were on screen together in Infinity War too, but I think everybody loves those moments when they were together. That needs to continue to happen.
That's a fantastic movie, and that I can't wait to see. That on our list. So,
what, the Guardians 3?
Right.
Because I don't think
they haven't announced it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So
okay, so that was what, Thor: Love and Thunder in February of 2022, and then we are on to Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness in March of 2022,
which they started as a horror movie. Clearly, Disney's not going to go R, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to have kind of a spooky PG-13 movie.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't the director leave? I think it's Scott Derrickson, I believe, was the director of the first one, and I think he was signed on for the second one, and then I don't know if it was because of the creative differences or whatever, but I think he might have left.
I believe I heard that too, and I believe it was due to the rating and how much latitude with this horror concept he was getting.
Okay,
and I think they pulled it back a little bit because ultimately we're selling toys here, right?
Yeah. According to the toys that made us, yes.
So that I think it would be a really cool idea. But if you're keeping it in the stream of things of the MCU and you want them all to tie together, you can't say, well, kids, you can't watch this one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think that's a great strategy. So for them as a company, but I would really like to see it. Yeah.
And I think there's a rumor floating around. I mean, obviously there's no spoilers because I don't know that there is anything to spoil about this movie. But we caught wind of potentially there being vampires and werewolves in this Doctor Strange sequel, which then made your ears perk up because Blade has already been announced. I mean, nothing special about it, no dates or anything, but Mahershala Ali as Blade. So the minute you hear werewolves and vampires, that's what you think.
Were you saying my ears or just in general ears?
No, in general. I mean, I think you were the one that specifically pointed out, like, oh, hey, if they're talking vampires and werewolves, then there's your Blade.
Yeah, but there's no one more excited about Mahershala's Blade than you.
No, I mean it's perfect,
and I love even more than Mahershala himself. You are yeah. The champion. Well, he's been championing him as Blade before he was even announced as Blade.
I mean, he did call me. He was like, "Hey, man, what do you think? Should I do this?
Should I do this?"
I was like, well, I mean, you might want to talk to Wesley about it. The guy seems a little hung up on stuff lately. Still thinks he's Blade.
You might have a stalker of him.
Yeah.
Him in your backyard.
You know what, Mahershala? You have my blessing. Go be Blade. you wanted it. No, that all started on what was that? Alita Battle Angel, because they had him wearing. He looked like he was just put straight out of Blade.
Yeah,
in that movie,
he had a Morpheus type Blade look to him in that movie. And he I think he's a fantastic choice. But I think that's kind of where we might see him emerge.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I'm going to splinter us off for just a second because we just talked horror, rated R, how dark can we go on Multiverse of Madness. And then we transitioned into Blade, which I don't know if you should make a PG-13 Blade. I don't know.
You shouldn't, but I feel like that's what we're going to get. Because we're in
but
I say that.
I think you see where I'm going next.
Yes, we're getting a rated R Deadpool
exactly
today.
So that was the other news that was the news that came out a week or so ago. Is that Deadpool 3 is going to be in the MCU and they're going to keep it rated R. So obviously lots of questions about that, but in the context of what we're talking about, if you're going to go rated R with Deadpool, I mean I get it because that precedent has already been set. I don't think you have to go rated R with Doctor Strange. But I kind of think you do with Blade.
I think it's a much better movie, Blade. He's stabbing people with swords.
Yeah. Which, I mean, you can animate it to where, like, oh, there's no blood. They just turn into ash when you kill them. Stuff like that we've seen in the original Blade. But, I mean, I don't know.
Kind of just feel like maybe they're testing the waters of Deadpool.
Yeah, possibly.
And saying, okay, can this fit with Disney?
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's kind of a proven concept already with Fox. That it works, but
yeah,
I want to know how angry are our Disney parents?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have some cover fire though, right? It's like, look, this property's already been established. you know what you're getting into here. It's not like Disney is itself saying it wants to go rated R. It's just sort of like, hey, we bought this property and this is what it is, and you know, it's going to be R.
So, okay,
Yeah.
with the same idea that we had just talked about, I feel like there's no way that they can officially connect them with other movies if that's going to be the case. You may have seen Blade in this movie, but his standalone movie is not going to have tie-ins to the next Avengers, 6.
That is true. That will make that piece challenging.
It can't,
right?
it can't be required watching, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
That's an excellent point. Yeah.
So you can't have,
definitely be a little bit.
What this Black Widow movie is kind of an aside. I feel like you can have the side Blade movie of, okay, this is art, don't think your kids, but it's not going to have any effect on our main timeline.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I'm
I
on
mean,
board
that
for
sucks. You would like to see, you always want to see your heroes come together and do something big, but yes, you are going to have that problem.
Well, he can still be involved in the next Avengers or whatever group fight, but that won't be R. But his standalone could be R.
Right.
It's just
then tough because if
the
right, it's just tough because then if the kids are like, "Whoa, who's that guy? I want to go see more." Like, I can't see that guy.
Well, that's a parent's decision.
Right.
Listen, these are vampires that he's killing. Okay.
Yep. Okay, so then I think the last two items that we have dates on are the Guardians Holiday Special, which is coming, I assume Christmas time 2022. They said holiday 2022. And then Captain Marvel 2 is coming November of 2022. So it seems like Marvel gave us some dates through the end of 2022.
Yeah, I'm anxious to see what they do with Captain Marvel. You obviously have the Wonder Woman problem, right? Where you gave her too big of a power set and you threw her into this universe, and now you have to pseudo neuter her, and bring her down to a power set that you can manage. Because if she can handle the same guys that all the Avengers are having trouble with, then there's an issue with that equation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So obviously it's going to be in space, and we're going to see some other space type people. I say obviously, but maybe it won't be. But I'm assuming it's going to be extraterrestrial threats that she's dealing with. But either you make the big baddie even bigger and make guys like Captain America, Falcon, and Bucky irrelevant, or you bring her down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the
I agree
challenge
with
with those.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so now I'm just going to rattle off a bunch of things that we don't have dates for, but that Marvel still announced, and then I think you and I can kind of run back through them quickly and see if there's anything that we have to add, because I think some we will, some we won't. There's an I Am Groot show coming out that's basically a bunch of Disney shorts, so probably animated, mainly for the kids. We have Ironheart, which was announced, and I believe in the comics that is Tony Stark's daughter.
Not daughter. No.
Not daughter?
Riri Williams is I think she's like 14-ish, but just a genius African-American girl who basically invents kind of what am I trying to say? Reverse engineer, there you go, Tony Stark's armor, and kind of invents her own and becomes her own type of Iron Man called Ironheart. And then he is her AI in her head, which I think would work really well for Robert Downey Jr. to come back as just a voice in her head. But
yeah.
If it's a TV show, I'm not sure how that's going to work. Was that a TV show or is that a movie?
No, these are all okay. So Groot, Ironheart are definitely shows.
Okay, but I think that could be a really good way to catapult her character, because it's a really really good character in the comics.
Okay. Then we're on to She-Hulk,
which I love and am scared about, because they said a legal comedy.
Mm-hmm.
So how She-Hulky are we getting her is my question. So I'm anxious to see what they do there.
Yeah, I have no even preconceived notions of what this should be, so I'm just along for the ride on that one. Moon Knight. The only thing I know about it is Ethan Hawke is, I believe, the bad guy, and I think Oscar Isaac is also cast in it, but I know nothing of Moon Knight.
Moon Knight is basically a schizophrenic Batman, is the best way I feel like I can equate to him.
Okay.
So his Moon Knight personality is different than his Bruce Wayne personality.
Okay.
So that could be interesting show.
Okay. I'm going to skip some movies and we'll just continue with shows then. We have Armor Wars with Don Cheadle.
That's kind of continuing the Captain America. I believe it's armor got in the hands of wrong people and War Machine's hunting them down is kind of the sense that I got.
Okay. Secret Invasion with Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn coming back.
That's with Skrulls that
Yes.
have sleeper cells throughout the globe, but not sure how they're going to do that because they established the Skrulls are good guys now, unless there's just a band of Skrulls that are bad guys that we're going to fight.
Sounds like you just solved that problem.
Okay.
And then the last show that they announced was Hawkeye with Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop.
I think I'm really excited for that one. I think she's a perfect fit for Kate. Kate is just she started as kind of everyone called her like Lady Hawkeye. She's like, no, I'm just Hawkeye, and I'm just a better Hawkeye, and
A better Hawkeye. I like it.
That's how she always kind of holds herself out. And Clint is more of a buffoon character than he has been portrayed in Avengers. He's more lucky than good, kind of like clumsy but still
Interesting.
type of thing. I don't know if I'm explaining that quite right, but she is she is a good character, a good actress for this. I think it'll fit nicely.
Okay. And I didn't say this, but Jeremy Renner is obviously in that as Hawkeye Clint.
Yes.
Okay. The last two things that they announced are movies. So, again, I don't think we know anything about these other than titles. And one of them, I don't even think we know the title. But the first was Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania.
Okay. I'm sure that's going to tie into something with the multiverse.
Right. And then the last one, which I think some people were super excited about, and if you've listened to us on the podcast long enough, you will know where each of us probably stands on this. But I think the big question of that shareholder meeting was, are we going to talk anything about two big Marvel properties that have traditionally either not been here or have sucked? And that was the debate between X-Men and Fantastic Four. And they gave us a Fantastic Four announcement.
Yuck. Well, it makes sense why that would be announced first, because that really has no bearing on everyone else. Mutants that have been involved in the world since, if Wolverine's been around since the Civil War, or however you want to do that, that's harder to pull off. Like, where's he been?
Mm-hmm.
Versus Fantastic Four, you could give them their powers today and their new characters.
Sure.
So it's easier to wrap them into the fold, opposed to mutants exist and have always existed. So I get why they're struggling with that, but nobody wants to see the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. I mean, out of all the stuff we just listed, so we finally made it through all of our list, everything that they announced at that shareholders meeting between movies and shows, Fantastic Four is far and away the thing I am least excited for.
Well, you know who demanded that, right?
Who?
Tobey Maguire fan.
Same guy.
Same guy wants Fantastic Four again on screen.
We got three circles going on now. Snyder Cut guy, Raimi Spider-Man guy, and Fantastic Four guy. Oh man, I'm sorry, if you are at the nexus of those three circles, whoa.
I dislike you as a human.
I mean, I'm not on your side in any way, shape, or form.
I don't dislike
any
you.
part of
we
that.
just wouldn't be friends.
Exactly. If we got in a conversation and you let that fly, I'd walk away.
I really hope you're a Chiefs fan, because I got nothing in common.
I don't even want you to be a Chiefs fan.
Oh wow, kicking him off the bandwagon.
Yeah, get out of here.
Go on, get.
All right, so that gets us through all of our MCU talk, which is what we wanted to get to today between WandaVision and the upcoming phases. I think the only last thing we have for today is prep for next week. So we are going to get back to our reviews, and obviously with our limited selections, limited options of new movies, we had to go hunting a little bit, and good old Netflix coming through for us.
Yeah, Falcon's back.
Is he back? I mean,
Falcon is outside the wire, apparently.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Outside the Wire, Netflix, coming on January 15th, which means it's actually already out now, but we're going to watch it for next week's episode. Average. It looks average.
It looks so predictable, and truly I had to stop the trailer, so I didn't even finish. I was a minute and a half into a 2.5 minute trailer, and I'm like, this is already looking very stereotypical and predictable, and I already know where they're going with this, so I didn't even finish it. Just trying to hope that they didn't ruin some sort of twist that might make this show interesting. But
no,
there wasn't anything at the end. I just didn't want to ruin any more of it than I already did.
No, I mean, I came away thinking, like, I really don't know anything about the plot. Like, I mean, I get that he is presented as like, well, no. What I'm saying is, like, I know that he's basically a military RoboCop who's, going on missions, and they take off his AI chip so he can, go do whatever. But, like, I don't really know who they're going against. I don't.
It doesn't matter. It's going to be a generic. He's fighting his own people that want him to do bad things. This is Solo, This is.
I mean,
Mario Van Peebles. This is RoboCop, like you mentioned. You took off your restraining bolt, and then now you have the ability to break rules.
Yes.
This is.
I guess I was just trying to say. Yeah. It's not anything new. I'm not saying that. I guess I get the overall generic plot that's happening. What I'm saying is, like, if there's any kind of specifics that branch off in any kind of unique ways, like, I don't feel like I know, beat for beat what's going to happen, where some trailers truly give away literally everything. I think this does have some potential wiggle room. I'm not saying that they're going to use it or use it effectively, but I don't feel like I know everything.
Well, see, the reason I equate it more to Solo than to RoboCop is he says he is AI.
Mm-hmm.
And so he doesn't even have that cyborg or that human component. And I feel like the trailer's really missing is him acting like AI. I mean, he's completely just Anthony Mackie.
Yeah. I had that same exact thought. I'm like, you're not acting really robotic. Like, if the AI is this good, I don't know. There's some questions.
I hope that they mapped maybe a fallen soldier's brain and put him into this, and then have it be AI. Something like that where it can duplicate his personality of some sort, to where they explain why he's cracking jokes about this guy's girlfriend.
So you want a Solo meets a Universal Soldier?
That's not what they do with Universal Soldier.
Well, I mean, they reanimate the guy, so it's technically still his personality. I was just saying, like, take the personality and dump it into a RoboCop type.
I would say that's actually the it's closer to RoboCop than Universal Soldier, because Universal Soldier, they actually pull out his personality and just have his
true.
body.
They try to suppress it with the shots.
Shots, yes. But I just the two of them. It was weird to say, oh, the AI super weapon is sitting behind a desk interviewing people. Like, this is weird. I feel like it's lazy. How do we make him really cool and fight really cool and something different? But I feel like what I've seen, now they could easily explain it with maybe 2 lines out of the intro, and I'd be like, oh, okay, I get it. But what I've seen so far, I feel like it's very generic and lazy in that plot string.
Yeah. I think it's going to be average or below average. Just, I mean, one, it's a Netflix movie, so you just kind of already have that, like, okay, I'm going to start at like a 4. Like, you don't even get the opportunity to be a 5. I mean, expectation-wise, like, ceiling's a 4, probably, and then go from there. I
mean, you're leaning on Anthony Mackie, but then Damson Idris, have you seen him at all? He was in a Black Mirror.
Okay.
But I'm more familiar with him from Snowfall. It's a show on FX and Hulu.
Oh.
He's really good in that. I've only seen about 5 episodes, but I really like him in that show. And so that's what's kind of giving me hope. He's really good in that, and hopefully he can bring some life to this movie that I don't think is gonna be.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see next week.
Yeah. All right. So that's it for our NCU roundup, plus our preview of Outside the Wire next week, which should be dropping, I don't know the date, whatever that Tuesday is after we watch it. So let's see, 26th, I think, is when we'll be releasing that episode, and then we'll get another new movie after that. But we got the ball rolling, 3 in a row. We can keep it up.
Good streak.
All right, go Chiefs.
Chiefs.
All right, we'll catch everybody next time.
What should we do next? Something good? Something bad? Bit of both? Bit of both.